Hello and welcome to the latest episode of my YouTube channel, Kaya Kaynak 97. Thank you so much again for joining me. And of course, I have to start again with a massive thank you to everyone who has helped me out over the past few days. I'm sorry for not being able to get anything to you yesterday. I wanted to. It's not like there wasn't enough news, but with all the news, things got very busy with lots of stuff that we're going to talk about in today's show. And I had five-a-side in the evening and I really wanted to go play five-a-side and I scored. So I kind of made it worthwhile, but sorry for not being able to get to you yesterday. I will endeavour to do these as often as possible, though. Maybe over the weekend, I might step back just to have a little bit of time off. But on Sunday, I'm hoping to be back with you. So Saturday, I'm going to be. I've got quite a nice Saturday lined up, actually. I'm going to go see Asteroid City, the new Wes Anderson film. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's not why you guys are here. You guys aren't here to hear about my diary. What you are here to hear about is a massive thank you, firstly, to everyone who has subscribed. I've got the numbers in front of me in terms of the subscription, and it's unbelievable. 2,134. It's literally just gone up as I'm looking at it now, subscribers. So thank you so much to everyone who has already supported me on the way in this channel. It's a fantastic sort of effort from you guys. And, you know, I'm at the start of this journey. I'm really enjoying how things are going. I'm really having fun with it. I think it's a nice new way to talk to you guys, to interact with you guys, to get some of your questions. And I feel like we're doing some good videos, some good content's coming out. If you haven't had a chance, please do go back and watch our last video, which was an interview with Malik Uzia of the Evening Standard, who is their regular West Ham guy, does a bit of Arsenal too, and it's in the cricket as well at the minute, covering the Ashes, and gave us fantastic insight on Declan Reiss, what he's like in the training ground, what he's like in the dressing room, his strengths, his weaknesses. We did a bit of tactics as well. We got the heat maps up, we got the passing maps up, we used a bit of Y-Scout. And more importantly, as far as I'm concerned, the most interesting thing was where he can improve. So I think I'll put a link to that in the end of the video. But yeah, please do go back and watch that. But for now, let's focus on what's been happening over the past few days. And it's been a very busy week as far as Arsenal are concerned. It's been a very busy couple of days as far as Arsenal are concerned. I'm going to start with the news that came out yesterday. And that, of course, was the confirmation that Granit Xhaka has left Arsenal. As I broke the story on Monday, it is going to be a 25 million euro fee that had previously been reported as 13 million pounds. It's much better business for Arsenal than was previously stated. Again, we need to reinforce the fact that it was a 30-year-old, soon to be 31. His birthday's in September. I know you're 30 until you're 31 and all that stuff, but you know he's not far off it. By the time the season starts and gets underway, he'll be more or less 31. 12 months left on his deal, as I said. Arsenal did have the option to extend that, but I don't know if they were ever going to take that. And I think if it meant facilitating this move for Xhaka, then yeah, they were willing to not do that. And also they were willing to show a little bit more ruthlessness. I know you've seen all these positive messages and Arteta's been lovely and some of the stuff he said. Edu had a nice message. A lot of the players have come out and said good stuff, which is always a sign, isn't it? When the players are coming out and saying, look, we're going to miss you. Thank you for everything. I think I saw Gabriel's tweeted. Cedric's tweeted. I've seen some stuff from Zinchenko. I want to say Martinelli put out some stuff as well. I can't quite remember. There's so many Arsenal players to follow on social media. It's very difficult. But speaking of following Arsenal players on social media, let's just have a look at Granit Xhaka's post. And my face is rather annoyingly blocking some of it there, so apologies. But I'll be able to read it for you. It says, Gunners, it's been some journey. All that's left for me is to say thank you. I've spent 7 years at Arsenal. The club has become such an important part of my life, and it's not easy to leave. But now is the right time for a new adventure. There are so many people I need to thank, the managers I played for, all my teammates and the staff behind the scenes. Especially, I want to thank all of you. Everyone knows we've been through some tough times, but we came through them together. And I'll never forget the feeling I had each time we won the FA Cup or whenever I heard you singing my name. Pure goosebumps. I will always carry Arsenal in my heart. Once a Gunner, always a Gunner. Thank you, with a love heart emoji to round things off. And it's a lovely message, I think, from Granit, who has always been a good talker. I think I'm going to give you sort of an insight from a journalistic perspective. I think fans, it's well trodden, sort of the kind of guy he is and why fans like him. But as journalists, the reason I think we're all quite sad to see Granit leave is he was always willing to front up. You get a lot of players who, when things aren't going well, they don't talk. So even this season, when Arsenal were on that fantastic winning run and they were drawing games, sometimes players wouldn't even stop in the mix zone or talk then. And, you know, it's a draw. You know, high standards and everything, but, you know, you need to face up. And I think Granit always understood that. I think he always understood that with the media, there has to be this sort of relationship where you can control the narrative and you can put a brave face on things and he was always the one who was willing to stick his head above the parapet. And I do wonder if maybe in his early time at Arsenal, when the atmosphere was a bit more negative and things weren't quite as upbeat as they are now, I wonder if that made him vulnerable to some of the attacks he got. Some of the stuff he received on social media was appalling. Some of the vitriolic abuse that was hurled at his family. And I think he was right to stand up to it. And I think he probably did, in terms of the whole, saying F off to all the Arsenal fans when he walked off, when they were booing him against Crystal Palace all those years ago, which he references sort of in that statement there. I think he did what many football players have wanted to do their entire lives, but obviously you can't really do it. And that was wrong. But the way he turned things around since then has been pretty spectacular. Obviously, Mikel Arteta has played a huge role in that. The positional switch from the more deeper line player, sort of sometimes playing left back, covering, allowing Kieran Tierney to get forward, to this attacking left eight that we've seen this season. He's got 9 goals and 7 assists, 16 goal contributions. I don't think anyone would have thought that was possible from Granit Xhaka. We always thought he was a guy who would sit deep and unleash cannons from distance, release the Kraken, like that John Arne Riise video. But Granit managed to get forward a lot this season. He was getting in the box. His 2 goals against Wolves on the final day, where I think that picture in the very middle, just above the thank you, is from that. And that day, both the goals were inside the box. And that's the kind of addition that he's been adding to the team. So, yeah, it's going to be a sad loss, but there are other players coming in, and we should probably have a little chat about them. So the big story coming out today, at least that we're expecting today, as far as I am aware, Declan Rice's medical is happening today. I've also heard whispers that Jurrien Timber's medical is happening today. I've not been able to confirm that. Just want to touch on Rice first. And again, I'll link you guys back to video with Malik that we did earlier in the week, which is on the channel. You can go and find it. I'll put a link to it at the end of the video, but you can also go find it by clicking on the channel. I think Declan Rice should be announced, fingers crossed, relatively soon. I don't know whether Arsenal will be able to get him out to Germany for the training camp, just because I'm not 100% sure what his schedule is, because he didn't quite have that rest that some of the other players had. So, for example, Saka was with England, but he had a few weeks off before that because Arsenal weren't in any European finals. Declan Rice was in the European final with West Ham in the Conference League final, and obviously there wasn't much of a turnaround between then and when he joined up with the England camp. He had a few days celebrating, as some of those rather funny social media posts with him and David Moyes running through Prague in the middle of the night suggests. But Declan Rice, I don't know if he's having a little bit more of a holiday, or if he wants a bit of a rest, or if he has decided that he wants to come join up with the team. That the medical is, I'm aware, is happening today. So they'll be getting all that stuff done, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, and hopefully formalising that soon. Quite when Arsenal are going to announce it, like I say, I'm not sure. But Arsenal do travel to Nuremberg for Adidas HQ for a training camp. That's on Monday, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the 11th of July or the 10th of July. Whether Declan Rice will be part of that travelling party, I'm not 100% sure. But of course, I will bring that news to you as soon as I'm able to get it. Yes, also Jurrien Timber, like I said before, whispers that his medical is happening today. I've not really had a chance to speak to you guys about Jurrien Timber. I wanted to reference him on Wednesday, it was, but I didn't quite get the chance because we had that video with Malik and I wanted to focus on that. But the announcement that it's all been agreed, 40 million euros with potential 5 million add-ons, I think that's great business when you consider that Ajax wanted 50 million pounds at the start. 40 million euros is about 34.2, I think, or my exchange rate mechanism in my head isn't very good. My maths isn't quite what it used to be, but yeah, I think it's good business for Arsenal. And we all know why, because he's someone who's going to come in, play right back. He's someone who's going to offer Arsenal the opportunity to do the more inverted side of things on the right. And it was interesting when Zinchenko was out towards the end of last season, when I think I've referenced this before, but that Nottingham Forest game where Arteta decided to put Partey at right back with Kivior at left back, it was almost a swapping of Ben White being at right back and Zinchenko being at left back, the way Partey drifted in midfield. And I think people misunderstand Thomas Partey as a player a lot. I think they think he's this big defensive destroyer in the middle of the park. I'm not so sure. I think he's more, I don't know, I think he's less Gilberto Silva and more Santi Cazorla. I think that's probably a fair comparison, the way he's able to just escape from tight spaces, the way he's able to evade opposition presses, the way he's able to pick the lines with passes, deep balls that just go between the lines, and I think they make a huge difference for Arsenal when they're trying to build up the play. Arsenal drifted him in from midfield, sort of alongside Jurrien, that sort of inverted role. And I think it works relatively well in the final day against Wolves. It obviously didn't work very well against Forest, although actually I asked Arteta after the game, and he said he thought he played quite well. But it's clear that he thought there could be an upgrade in that position, and that is why Jurrien Timber is coming in. And again, the big buzzword for Arsenal when I'm speaking to people around the club is versatility. They want options. They don't want to be predictable. I've referenced this countless times now in videos on this channel, but Arsenal last season, for most of it, we could say, this is the team that's going to line up, give or take 8 or 9 players. Now, I don't think we're so sure. I don't think we know. Is Timber going to play? Is Ben White going to play? Is Zinchenko going to play? Is it going to be Tomiyasu on the left? Will it be Jorginho? Will it be Reiss at the base of the midfield? Will Havertz play, or will Reiss play in a more advanced 8 role? Will Arteta let's do something different up front? Will he play Trossard on the left instead of Martinelli? Will he move Martinelli into the middle? Will it be Trossard in the middle? Will he go for a false 9? There's so many options now for Mikel Arteta and for Arsenal that just make them so much more difficult to deal with. And the end goal, as I've said again, is for Arsenal to compete with Manchester City, and they need to close that gap, because that's obviously the team that they're up against in the Premier League and arguably in the Champions League too, and FA Cup, Carabao Cup, all of them. And what Manchester City have is an unpredictability in the sense that you have absolutely no idea who's going to play. I think you can probably assume that Erling Haaland will start most games and Kevin De Bruyne will start most games when he's fit. And you can probably say it'll be Ederson in goal. Beyond that, it's very difficult to know. They change their centre-backs all the time. They change their full-backs all the time. They change their midfield. They change their wingers. It's very difficult to predict what Manchester City is going to turn up. And I think Arteta wants Arsenal to drift towards that. I don't think he wants them to lose their identity, and I don't think he wants them to copy Manchester City. And he's spoken in the past about how, things have to be done their own way. Arsenal have to do things their own way. But I do think that's where they're headed. I do think that's the ultimate end game for Arsenal. And with the Champions League coming up, you can't really have an A team and a B team. It's got to be an A-star team and an A team. And everyone's got to be on that level. Everyone's got to be top. You go from having 22 players in a squad with 3 goalies to sort of having a more concentrated group, I'd say, of maybe 20 odd, 19, 20, who can really contribute, and maybe a few youngsters sort of supplementing the numbers on the side. And I think that's where this team is headed right now. So, yeah, exciting news for Arsenal with Jurrien Timber and Declan Rice coming in, those to be announced very soon, both having their medicals today, I believe. Let's also talk about more exciting news, which is the news that William Sailba has signed his Arsenal contract. That has not been confirmed yet. It's not been announced yet, but it's my understanding that has been signed. It was signed yesterday. William Saliba's agent was at the training ground with him to oversee that. Saliba is going to be signing on a deal till 2027. No option to extend that. So it's a 4-year contract as far as I'm aware. Great piece of news for Arsenal. Sorry, my hay fever is getting the worst of me there. Great piece of news for Arsenal that they're able to tie down Saliba. In my opinion, the best young defender in the Premier League last season, arguably the best full stop. And we saw Gabriel Jesus say this, and it was interesting to hear him be so blunt about it, actually, that he felt the season fell apart when Saliba got injured. There were defensive issues before, but I think, Saliba's loss was massive for Arsenal next season. And obviously, you can see there, he's back training. That's great news. That's a massive boost for Arsenal, because there were concerns about how is his back injury developing? Is he going to be ready for pre-season? Looks like he's back out there. I don't quite know the extent of Arsenal's pre-season training and how intense it's been so far. Obviously, they're just warming up and getting ready for the start of the season. They've been off for 2 weeks. Saliba's been out for even longer. So I think he'll need a bit of time to get up to speed, and maybe we'll see him come off the bench a little bit in Nuremberg. Maybe he'll start to gear things up towards the American tour. I'm not 100% sure. That's just conjecture. But what I am sure of is that he signed his contract till 2027. I look at this and I wonder, obviously, fantastic business from Arsenal to keep him. And I think he's going to be earning over £200,000 a week. Deserves it. I've seen people say he's only 21 or 22, is he now? He shouldn't be earning that sort of money. I disagree. I think, as I said earlier, he's the best in the league, or one of the best in the league. And if you want that quality of play, you need to pay them that quality of wages. And Xhaka, it's the same. Martinelli, it's the same. Jesus is on a couple of £100,000 a week, nearly over, I think, and we don't hear any complaints about that. So I think Saliba's certainly worth it. And it's a lot cheaper to keep someone on £200,000 a week than it is to go out and sign a William Sailba replacement, because those guys don't grow on trees. That you're looking at least sort of 80, 90, 100 million if you want to get a William Saliba replacement. And now Arsenal are in a position where if they do end up selling Saliba in the future, or if he decides that he wants to move on or go to a different project, they now have the power. 4 years is a long time. I know people have suggested, I wish there was an option for a fifth. I'm sure Arsenal would have liked to have included that in the deal, but I think Saliba and his agent probably would have been pretty aware that they get a little bit more control this way. We've seen it similarly with the Flo Balogun contract, where he signed a 4-year deal with no option to extend. Just in a couple of years' time, if Saliba keeps going at the rate he's been going, he'll have that control over a further new deal. If Arsenal say, hang on, we want to extend you even further, then he can say, well, pay me more. And Arsenal will then sort of be in a position where they either have to make a decision to sell or to sign. But for the next 2 years, the most important thing is that William Saliba will continue with Arsenal. And fantastic news, fantastic fantastic retention. And hats off again to Edu and Richard Garlick and the contracts team, who have done a really good job. And Mikel Arteta has always been confident it's going to be done. There were a few sort of hints that maybe he might be moving on, but I do look across Europe and I wonder, where could he have gone? Real Madrid, you got Rudiger, Alaba, Militao, all competing for that one spot. And Saliba's thing has always been he needs regular game time. PSG is a bit of a basket case at the minute. There's crazy stuff going on there. Some of the stories about Galtier and pretty horrible stuff. I know they've just appointed Luis Enrique, but would you want to join them? I'm not so sure. And then you're looking in the Premier League, Liverpool aren't really in a position where you'd want to move to them right now because of no Champions League. Chelsea, no. Manchester United, I don't think William Saliba would want to go there. So the other team you're looking at is Man City, and I don't think they've made any sort of signs that they want him. And also, why would he leave right now? I think he'd be much happier to stay under Arteta, where he knows a team, where he's safe and secure in the setup. And yeah, he enjoys working under Arteta. He was happy with how he developed last season, and he's very excited to stay. And that has been done. That was done yesterday, and I've got a sneaky suspicion we may hear a bit more news on that later today. Get your tequila glasses at the ready is what I'd say. And look forward to hearing that song further. Okay, another contract that was confirmed yesterday was that of Reiss Nelson. And like I say with these contract announcements, don't expect them all to happen on the same day. I think expect them to be spaced out because Arsenal are fully aware of social media and capturing the narrative and how these things work. And I think they're very savvy when it comes to that. And they want to give each deal its day in the sun. So you'll notice Alessia Russo's deal earlier in the week was given its full day in the sun, and the club really promoted it well. Same with Reiss Nelson's deal yesterday. Maybe William Saliba's deal in the near future. Maybe. And then the Declan Rice and Jurrien Timber deals. I'm pretty sure they'll get their own days where they're just sort of Timber content, Rice content, Saliba content, Nelson content yesterday, as we saw, Russo content, as we saw earlier in the week. And also Waneri content was earlier in the week too, and Lewis Skelly, which we touched on in another one of our earlier videos. Go back and watch that. But Reiss Nelson, the man of the Bournemouth legendary goal, the best goal I've experienced at the Emirates, not necessarily in terms of quality, because I was there for Olivier Giroud's scorpion kick, which is, I think, still the best goal I've ever seen in my life. And I was there for Alexis Sanchez's goal in the FA Cup final against Villa, which is pretty high up there. But in terms of sheer drama, in terms of sheer emotion, you don't get much better than Reiss Nelson's goal against Bournemouth. And that wasn't a coincidence. That didn't just come out of nowhere. And I think people might remember Reiss last season for that moment and for the Nottingham Forest game. They'll think, he just fleeted in and out in moments. It's not the case. When he came back from from his loan spell with Feyenoord, there were suggestions that he might leave. And I think he was open to leaving because he had 1 year left on his deal. He got an injury, which meant that he had to stay. And then from that point on, he knuckled down. I think he himself has said that being in Holland and having that time away, it's his second loan spell abroad. It's changed him in the sense that I think he's grown in maturity. He says he's still the same player, and he said that in his interview yesterday on the club website. But I think in terms of maturity and personality and dedication to the sport and to football, I think he's changed. And I think Mikel Arteta saw that in him. And Mikel Arteta's always been a fan of Reiss Nelson. He's coached him since he coached him when he was 14, when he was doing his badges, and he's been a fan of his since then. He started Mikel Arteta's first game in charge against Bournemouth, started the next game against Chelsea. And that was ahead of Nicola Pepe at the time. Remember, Nicola Pepe was the club record signing, had just come in, but Arteta chose Reiss instead. And I think that's a sign of how much faith he had in him back then. Reiss has been really unlucky with injuries. He's had so many things that slow him down. I think he referenced that in his interview with the club, he'd missed 17 games last season due to injury. And just as things were ramping up last season, around the World Cup break, he'd been superb in Dubai. And then he got an injury and was sadly ruled out for a little while. He got a hamstring injury. against Juventus. But Reiss is back, and I think if he can stay fit for a whole season, I think he's got a really important role to play in this Arsenal squad. And I get so many people asking me, "Oh, Kaya, are Arsenal going to get a Bukayo Saka alternative?" Well, there's your guy. There's Reiss Nelson. I know he's not left-footed, but I know he played a lot of his football on the left as well last season. But it gives you an option. It gives you something different. There might be days where Arteta wants an out-and-out winger on the right and he chooses Reiss Nelson. There might be days where maybe he wants Trossard to go over there because Trossard's so ambidextrous and can play with his left and his right very easily. Obviously, he's got a hat-trick with his left foot. It's his weaker foot. For those of you listening on podcasts, I was doing inverted sort of speech bubbles with my hands there. But you can play Trossard on the right. You can play Smith Rowe there. Fabio Vieira can play there. And Reiss Nelson is now another option. And I think in terms of for Arsenal, it's a really smart move that they were able to time down. They protect his value, and if he does decide he needs to leave in a few years' time, then now Arsenal can be sure they're going to get a fee for him. I don't think the contract is 4 years with an option for a further 12 months. I'd be surprised if he's not playing regularly, if he chooses to see that out for its duration, but you never know. I think he's very happy at Arsenal. He feels like he's at home there. He loves the coaching staff. He loves the setup. And he's always said Arsenal is my home. And I actually spoke to him in Dubai in that sort of World Cup break period. And he did say then, I want to stay. That's not to say that his head wasn't slightly turned. He did have good offers. Brighton were interested. The offer we've heard most about recently was AC Milan, who I think presented him with a really good offer to go out there and become a star. And we've seen lots of players go out, lots of English academy players go out and sort of star in Italy recently. Tammy Abraham, Fikayo Tomori, Chris Smalling's had a really good career out there. Who else? Ruben Loftus-Cheek has just moved there, and I think he'll do quite well in Italy as well. So lots of good players have made that transition out to Italian football. And I think Reiss would have been really good at AC Milan, but I also think he'll be really good at Arsenal. And I'm very happy he's staying because another option for this Arsenal side in attack, another option for this Arsenal side on the forward line, and something a bit different. I think Reiss is different to the other forwards Arsenal have got. And I noticed with him in the brief glimpses he was getting off the bench, there was a consistency to the impact he was having on games. There's a reason he moved up in the pecking order. You remember that Bournemouth game, it was Emile Smith-Rowe who came on ahead of him. I know Smith-Rowe was unfit and couldn't finish the game, but Mill was the one who was ahead of him in the pecking order. And with that game against Bournemouth, with that performance, it wasn't just the goal. He got the assist for Ben White as well. He really took the game by the scruff of the neck. He seems to have moved himself further up in the pecking order. I remember the 4-1 against Man City where Arsenal were pretty atrocious, and Reiss came on and he gave them a bit of fight. He was spirited. He really went for it, and that's not the Reiss I've seen before. I think he's been a bit timid, a bit reserved, a bit lacking in confidence. But now he seems a bit more confident in himself. He seems more confident in his surroundings, and I think he's accepted that if I stay at Arsenal, I'm going to maybe get a limited amount of minutes, but I need to take my chance with these minutes. And now I think he knows that he's good enough to do so. So that confidence that he seems to have discovered in himself from his spell away at Feyenoord, from his diligence to want to stay fit now, it's all positive for Arsenal and it's all good news. So yeah, that's the big stories of the day. I want to get to a few of your questions now. And the first question I want to touch on is any word what will happen with Nicola Pepe? And this is from Illuminati 1968. Lovely name. I didn't know the Illuminati was founded then, but a lovely name. Sorry, terrible joke. And I will try and improve my humour going forward. I'm just going to have a sip of hot chocolate to try and wash away that joke. Any word on what may happen with Pepe? Curious to see if Arteta will have confidence in the squad this season. I do not think he managed the guys in the fringe well enough. Maybe it was the pressure. Maybe they weren't given opportunities to develop. So when it comes to Pepe, it's my understanding that he will leave permanently this summer. He's got 12 months left in his contract. He is no longer a part of Mikel Arteta's plans. He's not back in training, despite the fact that he wasn't not back in training at London Colney with the squad, despite the fact that he wasn't away on international duty. I know he's injured. We're struggling with a knee injury, but lots of the injured players turned up, and not that he didn't turn up. Lots of the injured players reported in for training and were included in the squad. Nicola Pepe hasn't been yet. Arsenal want to obviously get a fee for him, but they have made plans within the budget to potentially terminate his contract. I think he may be the last in this era of contract terminations that we see. Who knows? He's on a lot of money, so it's a difficult one to get a decent fee for. Although Edu has shown with the Granit Xhaka deal that he can work a few miracles when it comes to generating fees, and I wonder if maybe he'll start getting better at that, and that will translate into someone coming in and offering a decent bit of money for Pepe. To be honest, if Arsenal get 10 million for Nicola Pepe, I think that's a good deal. which is crazy to talk about for a guy who was the £72 million signing, the record transfer in the club's history. But if they can get 10 mil for him and just get him off the wage books, I think that's a good deal for Arsenal. I think he would like to stay and contribute, but I don't think Arteta sees a future for him. And if you look at Reiss Nelson's deal and all the players who have come in since, and Trossard's obviously there now, Martinelli's a regular starter, Smith Rowe is there, as I mentioned before, Fabio Vieira, Jesus can play on the wings, Balogun can play on the wings, although I'm pretty sure he's going to be leaving this summer. Eddie can play on the wings. So there's options, and there's lots of options ahead of Nicola Pepe, who I think Mikel Arteta values. And it's a shame for him, because maybe in another world he finds a bit more consistency earlier, he settles a bit better. He came in at a time when the club was a real mess, but yeah, I just don't see it. I personally wouldn't be too averse to keeping him this season, just because I think if you want a backup or if you want another option in the forward line, he can come in, he's scored goals, he's proven he can do it. But it seems Arteta is over him. When it comes to stuff about the fringe players, I agree with you, Illuminati. I think it's a really good point, and I think that's one of Arteta's biggest challenges this season. And obviously, we're all speaking about Arsenal now being viewed as a squad rather than an 11, but that means that Arteta's going to have to manage it, and he's going to have to manage it a lot better than he has done in the past. And I mentioned Fabio Vieira just now. He's a player who I think has been a victim of that, in the sense that maybe earlier in the season, when things were going really well, there were a few times where he could have introduced Vieira. I know he was struggling with injury, but there were a few times where I thought, well, maybe you can give Fabio Vieira 5-10 minutes. This is when Smith Rowe was injured too. Give him a bit of time just to get on the pitch, get himself up to speed. It didn't quite happen. And Vieira's shown glimpses, but I think he lost confidence because he was so on the outside. And I've heard from a few people in and around the squads and the dressing room and the training ground that sort of when you're in with Arteta, you're in. But when you're not, it's just like not really. I don't know. I don't want to say you're sort of an outcast or you're like shunned, but you're not. I don't know. I don't think he makes you feel as welcome, and that's something he'll need to work on as a manager, because there are going to be games where there's going to be disappointed players. Arsenal have a lot of good defenders, midfielders, attackers now, so it's going to be very difficult to manage that. And I wonder if maybe he'll have to find more opportunities to development. And without Europa League, that's going to be very difficult to do. So big challenge for Mikel Arteta there. Another question from Pranav Sathian 7090. Sorry if I've mispronounced that name. When can we expect Havertz at Arsenal training? Is he going to be available for our game in Germany? I believe the plan for Kai Havertz is to join up with the group next week. I will try and get that 100% confirmed for you, but I'm pretty sure that's the plan. I don't know if he'll be fully fit to play in that game, or maybe he'll be on the bench, but because he'll only had a couple of days training, whereas the other players will have had a full week more than him. But I think Mikel Arteta will want to get him involved as soon as possible. And I think Jesus was a similar thing, where he joined just after the squad had come for pre-season last year, and then he went over to Germany and played. So I wonder if it'll be a similar thing with Havertz. Arsenal, like I say, go out to Nuremberg next week. I will be there on the 13th, bringing you coverage of that. I'll try and get some content for you, which I'm looking forward to, in terms of the stuff that will be out there. Going to be able to speak to Mikel Arteta for the first time in a while. Looking forward to that. First time since the end of the season. I'll ask him lots of questions, and stuff on Havertz, stuff on the new signings as well, stuff on outgoings if we can get them in, and obviously there'll be big talking points in the game too. What else is going to be going on when we're in Germany? That kind of stuff, the game coverage. So I'll be bringing all of that to you, but I'll have more on that next week. In terms of Havertz, I'm pretty sure he's going to be there. Whether he's able to play in the game, though, we'll have to wait and see. Next question, and the final question, because I've been going for nearly half an hour, so I'll start to wrap things up after this. This is Mohammed Zishan, 2075. Says, realistically, after the 3 signings, how many faces are Arsenal planning to bring in? With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 question marks. So Mohammed really wants to know this, and I really want to know this as well, and I'm looking into it to try and find out as much information as I can. My understanding as it stands right now is that Arsenal have sort of done the bulk of their business, as they've done in the past, or they got the big signings that they needed done early. And then it'll be a case of getting players out the door now. So open to offers on Thomas Partey, open to offers on Nicola Pepe, open to offers on Kieran Tierney, open to offers on Sambi Lokonga, Tavares, most of the loan players from last year, Balogun, Runarsson, potentially Cedric too. So lots of players who could be on their way out of the club. Then maybe Arsenal will reassess. They'll see how much money they're able to get in for those players, how much money they're able to have on the books. I know that when it comes to sort of transfer finances and amortization and all that kind of stuff. I'm sorry if I've used the wrong word. My accountancy isn't what it used to be. But when it comes to that kind of stuff, Arsenal view it as sort of that money goes almost straight back into the transfer budget. So potentially there'll be new faces coming in. I think if Partey does leave, for example, Arsenal will have to sign a replacement. There's areas in the squad where if players do leave, then maybe they don't need a replacement. I think of Nuno Tavares, for example. I probably don't think they'd need a replacement if Kieran Tierney were to go as well. So, but Partey is the one that if he were to leave, I think they'd need a replacement. And this is why we continue to see the Romeo Lavia links, the Caicedo links, although those are dying down. It appears he's going more towards Chelsea, and Brighton are apparently going to demand more than the 105 million for Declan Rice, which is crazy money. But no chance, I think, of that happening as things stand. But maybe if Arsenal bring in lots and lots of money from these sales, maybe they can start to reassess. But as it stands, if Partey were to leave, I'd expect one more. Beyond that, not so sure. I don't know if Arsenal will go for another forward. I don't think they will, because Havertz can do it and Nelson's signed now. I'd be surprised if they sign another midfielder because they've got lots of options. And Jorginho is staying for another season. So, yeah, it will be a lot of business to get done in one window. Maybe a fourth signing later in the window when Arsenal reassess and see all the players they've got. But for now, I'm expecting it to stay as it is, depending on outgoings, potentially a few more. So that is all I've got. Right, that's all I'm going to tackle on today's show. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me as ever. And yeah, if you liked it, please do like the video. If you enjoy it, please do subscribe to the channel. Spread the word. Tell your friends. Tell whoever might be interested. All the little social media things are going across the bottom there. For those of you listening on the podcast, I'm on Twitter at Kaya Kaynak 97, Facebook Kaya Kaynak Journalist, and Instagram Kaya Kaynak FL, as in Football London. I'm also now doing Threads, so I'm going to see how that goes. It's a bit of a new venture. Lots of notifications from Threads. I don't know. What do you guys think about it as an app? Do you think it's going to catch on? Let me know in the comments. I'm kind of on the fence. I know there's lots of issues with Twitter, and I'm not Elon Musk's biggest fan, but I just think it's a big hassle to move all the way over to another app. But, you know, if that's where things are headed, then I will certainly be there. And I'm looking forward to that, interacting with you guys on another platform. But until then, please do keep liking these videos. Please do keep subscribing to them. Please do keep watching them. I really appreciate all the feedback. And yeah, get your questions in. Keep getting your questions in the comment section. I love answering them. I love interacting with you guys. The Granit Xhaka video that we did earlier in the week got 8.1 thousand views, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I wasn't expecting that at all. I was, barely expecting a few hundred views on these first few videos. So the fact that you guys are showing out for me, subscribing to these videos, watching them, liking, continuing to give me lots of feedback, appreciate it so much. It really does help. And everyone listening on podcast form as well, thank you so much. I think that's all I've got time for today. So thank you everyone for tuning in yet again. I'll be back with you very shortly. Cheers guys, and bye-bye.